Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Our first story about a terrible manager and his battle with our OP. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Steal all the jobs, micromanage everyone, time for revenge. So I used to work a specialized job in the oil fields. Pay structure was you would get salary plus a job bonus, percentage of the invoice price charged to the customer. Basically, the field bonus could be 50% or more of total pay. The work schedule was 15 days on shift and you were on call 24 hours a day. We had a dispatch that received the calls from our contracting company, and dispatch would then spread the jobs between all the trucks on call for their shift. Jobs were at least a 3-hour drive from the north shop, and 99% of jobs were further north of here. There was a second shop about 3 hours south that only had one crew on call. The north shop would have 3 or 4. Due to all the work being in the north, and south crew would normally wind up being put up in a hotel to be closer to work, either close to the north shop or in a field close to the majority of the jobs. Now, the supervisor of the south crew was a complete D-bag who micromanaged every little detail of his crew, and also was buddies with some of the dispatchers, so he would somehow talk them into giving him almost all the jobs and justified it by saying it was because they had to be in a hotel away from home, so he wanted to work as much as possible. After a few shifts of not getting any jobs, I figured it was time to do something about this. The job entailed setting up specialized tools that were dropped down into a newly drilled oil well, with different sensors that could tell where the oil was and what depth, etc. In order to do this, the truck had a drum of wire, armored cable with conductor cables running down the center, 3,000 to 8,000 meters long. At the end of the cable was a cable head, basically a way to connect the weight of the tools to the exterior armor and have the conductor cables connect to the electrics of said sensors. Now the revenge. I actually didn't live close to the shop myself, so when I was on shift, I would live out of a bunk in the truck. So this meant I was always at the shop where the trucks were parked while waiting to be called out. Now this is where Super D's micromanaging comes into play as well. The cable head had to be rebuilt every X amount of jobs, and since he didn't trust anyone on his crew, he always did it himself. A badly built cable head could mean shorts in the conductor cables. So when he would be fresh back from a job and head to the hotel, I sprang to work, opening up the cable head and nicking a little bit of insulation off a data wire and putting it back together. And when Super D would do a test before heading out to a job and discover his tools not receiving data back, he would have to pass the job to the next truck in line, as we cannot let our customers wait. Rebuilding a cable head takes about 2 hours. Since he insisted on always doing it himself, he could not get mad at his crew. He was the supervisor, and he'd be sent back to his own shop since it was not worth keeping them in a hotel to wait for the next job to come up. Once he didn't get any jobs for 2 months, I stopped until he'd try to take all the work again, then I would spring to action again. And our next story. Lady I sold air mattress to came back a year later to ask for a refund. When I moved in with my now husband, I decided to sell my air mattress. Since we now had a guest bedroom with a real bed, I posted it on Nextdoor before I realized my local Nextdoor was an utter crap show. I'd had the air mattress for a year or two, only used it twice, and bought it for $175, so I listed it for $50. I also put in the listing that I'd never had any issues with it. True. A woman emailed me and asked if she could come see it. I agreed, and she asked me to make sure it was set up so she could check it out. Fair enough. I inflated it and was ready when she arrived. She spent no less than 25 minutes testing it out, lying on it, rolling around, asking me to be quiet so she could listen for air leaks. All was good, and I again told her I'd never had any issues with it, but had only used it twice. After 30 minutes of watching her writhe in my living room, she said she would take it, but only had $30. I told her again what I'd paid for it and that I wouldn't take less than $50. She told me a long story about her limited income and how it was used and I wouldn't get somebody to pay that much, etc. I refused to budge, and she grumpily went home to get more money. I took it, gave her the mattress, she left. I praised the good Lord I would never have contact with her again. Right? Wrong. Over a year later, I'm at work and my cell phone rings. I pick it up and here's the conversation. Me. Hello? Crazy lady. CL. Hi, this is CL. Long pause. Me. I'm sorry, who? It's CL. You sold me an air mattress a while ago. Oh, okay. Can I help you? Actually, yeah. Once I bought the air mattress, I used it with some friends, and they said it deflates a little at night. Okay. I think it had a hole in it. We haven't been able to use it because it deflates. I wasn't sure if I should contact you, but lots of my friends encouraged me to. Getting frustrated and needing to get back to work at this point. Is there something you need? Yes, I'd like my money back. You sold me a defective product. No, I didn't. I told you all the details of the product, gave you a very fair price, and you tested it out yourself before buying it. I also haven't heard from you for over a year. Well, I tried to give you a chance to do the right thing here. The right thing? I haven't heard from you in a year. If you had an issue in the first week after I'd sold it to you, I might be willing to refund you. At this point, anything could have happened to it. Well, this is very disappointing. I really think you should refund me because there was a hole in it. I'm not refunding your money. I hung up and blocked her number. I'm sure she's still out there counting her pennies and trying to reach me. And our last story. Don't break the rules and then insist your staff enforce them. Whilst I was at university, I worked in our students' hall, basically a 2-story bar that was subsidized by the government. Because of the subsidy, it was the cheapest place in town, so we'd get a couple locals to come in. To prevent this, we were supposed to check everyone had a student ID, but no one minded as the locals were usually polite and handled their booze better than most students. My manager, who was a local himself, would encourage locals to come and would either discourage ID checks or simply not inform new staff of the situation. He would often steal from the bar and would give free drinks to his mates. One night he had a bunch of his buddies in town come in, have a drinking session at the bar's expense, paid for maybe 1/5 of the drinks, till way past closing and beyond our license. This resulted in the police being called for a noise complaint and bosses, Hall's head, finding out. To cover his butt, he claimed that the group were locals that we, the bar staff, had happily allowed to stay, then fudged the accounting for the night to make up for the free drinks. Because of this, he himself demanded we check every student ID, and the head took away some of our employee perks. The Sunday after this all went down, the pool tournament guys come in. These guys rotate which bar they go to every week because a list of maybe 6 that have enough pool tables and lounge space. I personally had served them half a dozen times. They make their way over to the bar, and the first guy's well into his 40s. Me. Hey man, before I can serve you, I have to see your student ID. He chuckled and said something along the lines of, "Do I look like a student?" and proceeded to order. Me. Look, I'm sorry, but I've been told that if you haven't got a student ID, I can't serve you. He started to realize I wasn't just messing with him at this point and looked to the other members of the staff who reiterated the point. Are you serious? We've been coming here for years. Yeah, sorry. Manager's name is cracking down on the only students rule. I can grab my supervisor for you if you want. My supervisor was also a student and explained the situation, and he was sorry for the inconvenience, and that if they had any complaints to call the head, my manager's boss, and even gave out a couple of his cards that were in the office. The pool guys left, which meant no one was really in the building, so we ended up closing early. Next morning, I awoke to my manager screaming down the phone at me, but it was my day off, so I hung up and didn't go to work, as a customer, till past noon. When I did, my coworkers couldn't wait to tell me what had happened. My manager had come in and had a shouting match with my supervisor in front of everyone grabbing a morning coffee. The head had indeed received some complaints and scheduled a meeting with the manager that morning. Not wanting to face it alone, he took my supervisor with him, I imagine intending to throw him under the bus as much as possible. The head was PO'd because, A, all these 40-something men had called to complain on his personal number on a Sunday, B, because these 40-something men, by their own admission, had been coming for years at the invite of the manager, whom they knew well. My manager tried to save face and claim they were associated with the university, that they were in fact lecturers. That is, it was the bar staff failing to check for student ID all the time, and then turned on my supervisor, saying he'd given them a bad reputation, cost them money by turning them away, and closing early, as well as laying bare every other mistake he'd ever made. My supervisor explained that it was never explained to staff that customers had to be students, as the manager actively encouraged locals to come in, that even lecturers get a form of student ID, and explained to the head about managers drinking with his mates and the dodgy accounting he'd do. This led to CCTV being checked. When the head saw that it was in fact the manager and his mates that the bar staff rarely put anything through the tills at his request, suspended him on the spot. He then said the accounts would need to be audited and that he would likely be terminated and even prosecuted. After a surreal couple of weeks, we got our perks back, they hired a new manager, and eventually they installed locks on the doors that could only be opened with a student ID. No idea what happened to the old manager, but by no means a loss. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.